Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Great to see you all here this morning. Thanks so much for taking time to be here for our PAC and DELAC meeting. We can go to the next slide. There we go. Great. So we are going to be starting to tell you about and get your feedback in what's called our LCAP process. And PAC and DELAC parents have a special role in this process, so we'll be talking about that today. We'll give you a chance to share some ideas, and then we'll review what's coming up next in terms of our calendar. So that'll be our plan for today. After January, it always feels like we're in LCAP season. So I'm going to explain what that is and how you can help us with it so we can keep going. So before we get too heavily into the LCAP portion, I wanted to review our district priorities and share some of the information that our superintendent, Stacy Yao, shared at the State of the District event. So annually, she hosts some of our community members at a large event over at the community center, and she shares our district priorities and some of the metrics and accomplishments of the district over the last LCAP cycle and the last year. So I wanted to take a chance to share some of her slides with you so that we could share some of the great work of the district. I think it provides a really important context as we're getting ready to talk about the LCAP. The LCAP is the district's improvement plan. It is the state required plan that all the public schools use for their annual as well as their 3-year improvement plan. So every 3 years, the cycle resets, and we are at that point this year. So we'll be kind of starting fresh, deciding which areas we want to keep and which areas we want to shift for the next 3-year improvement cycle. And so it's a good time to look back at some of the highlights over this last period of time. At our last meeting, we also reviewed the California dashboard. And that's one of the accountability metrics that is across the state for all public schools. You can find all that information in board docs in our last meeting if you weren't able to join us at that time. We'll go through a little bit of it at a high level today, but that is one of the important accountability pieces that ties in with our district priorities as well as the LCAP itself. So over the last year and even the last 3 years in the most recent LCAP cycle, we've been focusing on these 3 district priorities, and you've heard them before if you've been at our other meetings. The first one is always our academic excellence and personalized learning to support the whole child focus area. So really that's our core mission. That's what we're all about, making sure the kids get what they need academically, but also when we say whole child, we mean all the other ways they're developing too, like socially and emotionally and in their physical development as well. Priority 2 has been community engagement and involvement, and you are an important part of that aspect, just working with our community to do our best work together for the kids. And priority 3, district sustainability, is about how we make sure that the district budget and our facilities and all of those pieces line up to support priority 1 and 2. So going to the next slide. Oh, priority 4, almost forgot. This one was new this year. We've had a focus on this for the last few years, but this year it became a district priority, and it is sense of belonging. And we've been working on this a lot for the kids to feel connected to their schools. But this year, we also wanted to place a strong focus on making sure staff feel that sense of belonging, feel connected to their work and happy to be here, because we know that when we think about the kids' experience each day, the staff that they work with, that's what makes the difference for the kids and their experience at school. So we've had a strong focus on making sure our staff members feel valued and feel connected and feel that sense of belonging here in CUSD. All right. So this was one of my favorite slides that Stacy shared, and I don't know, maybe if you adjust the percentage there at the top, Miko, maybe it'll fit You know how it says it's at 75%. It's hard to make it all squish in there, but this was something she shared at the State of the District. Some of the highlights over the last 3 years, in terms of district accomplishments and support. You can get a sense of things here. I won't highlight all of these things, because it's kind of a long list, but we've made a lot of really important strides over the last few years. Some of the things I wanted to highlight is we really have focused in the last several years on increasing mental health support. We've been adding staff members over the years. Just in this last year, we've added 5 mental health therapists. We know we'll be adding 5 more. We've been moving from having contracted employees that are not they're on a contract, so they're not district employees, to bringing them fully in the fold into the district. And we'll be completing that process as we go into the next school year. So that's been a really wonderful additional support that was part of the last LCAP cycle, to make sure that we have adequate mental health staffing at all of the school sites for the students who need it. We also have been strongly focusing on getting our intervention in place, and this is when students need additional support in reading or math. You can see on here we have added additional intervention teachers at both the elementary and the middle school levels in both reading and math. So when students need extra support, they're able to access that additional teaching, so that they can reach the grade level targets. We also have added some additional supports at the middle school that have been very successful. So you can see where it says safety first on the bottom there. We have added what we call student success liaisons at Hyde and CMS. And these are campus supervisors that are walking around throughout the day, working closely with all of the rest of the site staff to get to know students and provide that necessary support, especially during transition times and recess times, making sure everybody is safe and getting to class, and also just getting to know the students, and being another touch point and somebody who can greet them as they're coming into the day and also as they're leaving. It's been very successful, and we will be expanding that to all middle schools next school year. We also expanded our parent liaison hours. So this has been something that was in place at some schools for many years. And some of you, I know, are parent liaisons. This is such a vital resource. Parent liaisons work with the school principal and other staff, and they help us reach out to other parents. Sometimes that involves connecting in our parents' home languages, getting information out about special programs or meetings at the school site, making sure that all parents feel connected to the school. And we have core hours set aside for our parent liaisons, and then they also work, many of them, across all the school sites. And that has just been so, so valuable. We also have increased our nursing staff over these years. We've allocated a lot of the one-time COVID funds to the school sites. And through that, we've been able to increase things like at the elementary schools. One of the most favorite things we hear when we visit the school sites is the recess support. So you might know this if you're an elementary school parent. Schools work with partners like Recess 101 or La Garza, and we have additional staff out there at recess to make sure that the kids are having a successful, active, full of friendship recess time, so they can come back to their classroom and be ready to learn. And that's been very positively received. We've implemented our expanded learning opportunities program, as well as learning hubs. These are after-school learning opportunities for students who need it or who qualify for it. Our ELOP program is a new state program that is for students who are in it's what's called unduplicated pupil count, so English learners, low income, and foster youth students. They have access to an after-school program at no cost through 6th grade, and that is now fully implemented as well. And that has been a wonderful support, and we get wonderful, heartwarming messages from parents about the importance of that as well. So we've had a busy cycle. Our last LCAP cycle, I'll highlight just one more thing. With the addition of Prop 28 funds, we have increased our elementary music teachers, and we will continue to do that. Our goal is to bring that all the way down to TK next school year. If we can get that hiring done, we're already out there looking, so I feel positive about that. Lots and lots of very important supports have been put in place over the last few years. So we'll keep going. I could keep talking on this, but there's more to say. So we can go to the next slide. So as I was saying, every year, and then in a big way every 3 years, we engage in something called the Local Control and Accountability Plan. And the purpose of this plan is to support the progress of our English learners, low-income students, and foster youth. And we have an allocation of funds called the LCFF supplemental funding that this plan addresses. So for us, you can see in the kind of orangey circle at the bottom there, it's around $8 million projected for next school year, which is approximately 4% of our budget. So all of the schools are required to set aside, and all of the districts in the state, a portion of their funds to address the needs of this population of students. And every year we go through this process where we reflect on how it's been going. We have engagement meetings like this, and also lots of other meetings at the school sites and throughout the district. And then we start formulating the new plan. So later this spring, your important role in this plan is one, to give us some feedback early on, which we'll do today. And then later, I'll be bringing you the draft plan, and your role will be to review the draft plan. And then you're the one group that we're required to respond to your questions in writing. So when we get to that this spring, I'll collect your questions, I'll share them with our superintendent, and then we'll create a written response that we will then post on the website. And that's one of the state engagement requirements for PAC and DELAC. So it's a great opportunity to get your questions answered and to be a really vital part of the process. And then once we get our plan in place, we bring it to the board. We have a public hearing and it's board approved. And then the cycle kind of starts again. The LCAP is the basis for the school SIPSAs. If you're engaged in your school site council or other parent groups, you might know about your school SIPSA, which is the school annual improvement plan, and everything lines up to the LCAP. So it all works together along with our strategic plan and our district priorities to keep us focused on our goals. And if you're wondering about our current LCAP, I did put where you can find it on our website. It is really long. I apologize. It's hundreds of pages long. So if you want to know more about it, you can look there, but you can also reach out to me if you need more information about how this works or you're not sure what something means. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'd be happy to sit down with you and explain a little more. It's a lot to cover in these short meetings. So please do that if you'd like more information. Okay, so we are in the reflecting on progress and engaging partners time frame here. We can go to the next slide. As I said, at our last meeting, we talked about the dashboard. And earlier this year, we also have been reviewing last year's CASP results. So this is another slide that Stacy shared at the State of the District. And what we're looking at here is the English Language Arts state test results. So that would be students in grades 3 through 8 last spring. And you can see our little logo there on the first circle. And then you're looking at the County of Santa Clara results in the middle. And then the state of California is the final one there. And you can see the key at the bottom. So basically we're looking to be in blue or green. Blue would be exceeding what's expected for the grade level standard. And then green, standard met. And then yellow is nearly met. And then the peach, red, color is not met. So we're always trying to have as many kids as possible, ideally in blue, but green is great too. Green is grade level standard met expectation. So green and blue, you can see we have well above the county and state levels in English language arts. So that's very positive. And going to the next one, we're going to be looking at math, and the same thing, our district and then the county and state results. So we continue to be, very high achieving and lots of strong results coming in for our students. Again, looking at the blue and the green, a lot of blue in math. Math historically has been very, very strong in our district. We know parents do a lot of work at home with math too, so we appreciate all of the support, and in reading as well. Okay, going to the next one. So we talked about the dashboard at our last meeting, but this is just a reminder, and this is also from the state of the district. So on the top row, you can see our little CUSD circle. So the whole top row is our district, and then you can see how this is looking at our all student population, and then there's next to the purple all students, it says state, and when we click on that, the row at the bottom shows up. So you can compare our district to the state, and then it's letting us know, whether we increased or maintained, or it could be decline as well. So just giving you a sense with the dashboard, we're also looking to be in blue or green, and this is based on level of achievement or level of progress, both the level and the change over time. So we're doing very, very well in these areas. We did talk about chronic absenteeism last time. That's an area where we're going to need to make some improvement. This chronic absenteeism is when students are absent for any reason, doesn't matter if it's excused or not excused, so illness, vacations, all of those things. And so we're working on how to get some messaging out about that. We know it's tough because kids do get sick, and we do also encourage families to not plan vacation during school time. However, we do know we have a lot of families who travel internationally. So we are making a plan for how to address that for next school year. More to come on that. All right, we can keep going. And this is something I wanted to show you. This is one of the reports we can pull up when we're looking at the dashboard. And on the left side there, you can see student groups. So I put a check next to the groups that we're focused on for the LCAP. We're always thinking about all students, but with the LCAP specifically, the primary purpose is thinking about English learners, foster youth, and then low-income students, which can be in the homeless category or socioeconomically disadvantaged category. And just for some context, our low-income percentage has been increasing quite a bit since COVID. So our most current in-district numbers, we're almost at 18% of the district population. The dashboard, which is a little bit delayed, reports 16.1%. So it's anywhere from 2,000 to about 2,400 students who are identified as socioeconomically disadvantaged or low income students. And our English learners, we have about 16-ish%, around 2,000, 2,200 English learners at a given time. Of course, that number changes every day because kids come in and kids get reclassified as fluent, but it's approximately that percentage. Homeless and foster youth, we track that on a daily and a weekly basis as well. It has been a small number over time, but also growing. It depends, any given moment, it could be, 5, 10, 15, 20 kids in that group. So definitely, these are significant numbers in our district, and so just want to give that context so we know what we're talking about. So this report here is showing us, remembering that we want to be in the blue and the green. If we're looking at things like English language arts and math all the way to the right, or suspension rate, which is a when students are removed from school for discipline reasons, or chronic absenteeism, or English learner progress. We're looking for the blue and the green. We can see where the areas of need are. With chronic absenteeism, this is, all our student groups impacted by that. So we know we're going to have targeted um, actions around that, and it's really for every student group. And then we can see the other areas where we need to focus in a little more, and wanted to just share this with you as we're in that reflection process prior to the next LCAP. Okay, so can keep going. Okay, so is this going to open, Miko, on this? This should be like a Jamboard. Hopefully it will work on this. And are people going to be, I wonder, are people going to be able to access this or no? Probably. I think I can put the link in the chat probably. Or maybe
I'm not sure. And actually, Sarah's the one sharing her screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if we
Taking
can share the Jamboard, and the blue button there, and then put the link in the chat. We'll get that going. But this, if you haven't used Jamboard before, it's like a shared whiteboard. So over on the left there, underneath the arrow, you can see there's a little, it's supposed to be like a Post-it note. Yeah, when you click on that, you'll make a Post-it note, and then you can type on it and save it. And if you want to change the color, you can even do that. It's kind of fun at the top. There's, different Post-it note colors. So this is a great way during a virtual meeting to get feedback. And we'll be doing this in a minute. I'll be asking you, what are your thoughts on, given what you know about our data, what you know about your school site and our district, and the dashboard information that we shared, and just all of the rich knowledge that you already have about what's happening. What are your thoughts when we think about the next LCAP cycle? And we specifically think about our English learners, low income and foster youth students, but also all students. What are the things that we should be thinking about? It might be something to continue, something we're already doing that you think we need to definitely keep in the next plan, or a new idea, something we should start, or something that is happening that you think should stop. So we kind of use that stop, start, continue prompt. And what happens is we have a lot of these meetings with all different groups, and we kind of look for the themes across the groups for, what are those things that people are saying are most important to consider as we formulate the next plan. And then we start putting together our goals and actions based on the themes from the feedback across all the different groups. So before we do that, is there any question about any of that information, or any clarifying questions that anybody would like to ask? Or you could either raise your hand or put it in the chat, and then we'll hopefully see if we can answer it.
I don't see anything in the chat.
Okay. Well, we'll see if anything comes up. So in the chat, Sarah put the link to the Jamboard, and let's just take 5 or so minutes and see. I'm hoping that you'll add something to the Jamboard, and just help us know, what do you think we should be stopping, starting, or continuing as we think about addressing our student needs in the next LCAP? Nico, maybe could you make it open up again on the screen, and then we can kind of see how that's going, please? Thank you.
Hi, Allison. This is Maria. I just had a quick question.
Yes, hi, thank you.
Hi. So I'm curious about the chronic absenteeism.
Yes.
Could you share like what, obviously there's impact, right, in learning, but what other impacts are there like at a district level or school or a site level for chronic absenteeism? Because I can see parents justifying it, because I know we have a lot of families who have moved to the area, right? And then so they need to go back and visit their families, which is totally understandable. But I think um, my assumption is, families justify it, right? And say, well, their grades are fine.
Mhm.
So there's no impact to the grades. So if you could just sort of, for my education, just share like what
Mhm.
impacts there are, why this should be seriously considered.
Yeah, well, we we do have some students who are in that category of, it's international travel and plus illness sometimes that add up to the number of days. 18 days is the number, just for everybody's information. It's 10% or more of the school year. So if we have 180 days, it's 18 days. Um, this is a state monitoring requirement. So one of the potential impacts can be just the impact on staff workload, because when we are not meeting the state requirements, sometimes there are accountability consequences, I guess I would say, that it puts workload on staff to address. There's different, improvement plans and additional layers that need to be done when we don't meet um, the state required accountability metrics. So that is one piece of things. Um, you know, I understand, and we have been talking about this. It is hard when parents see that the students are learning and the grades are not impacted. It is hard to make that case. That is the main messaging that comes from the state is around learning loss, and so we do understand that. I think, one of the things that we are considering is the potential of bringing back the short-term independent study. This is where families can take work with them and the students can recover the attendance. So, I think in some of those cases it is hard because parents want to visit the family, and we understand that it's difficult. It's difficult getting across the world and being there for those family moments, and so it is challenging. I mean, in terms of kind of the state messaging on this, when it becomes a pattern, one way to think about it is over time, right? Like if it's 20 days one year and 20 days the next year, and the months and sometimes years of lost learning time that can occur for a student, it has impacts. And even high achieving students, we see this in our iReady results. Even our high achieving students have gaps sometimes in their learning, a lot of times. So when they're missing classroom teaching moments, um, it's possible to be a very high achieving student but have gaps in skill understanding. So that is something to consider as well.
Yeah, I thank you for explaining. I think I wonder if this is a very unique issue for our area, just because we have, a lot of people move to the area for the companies here, right? And so I just wondering, it seems a unique situation for our specific area. And so it would be hard to try to figure out how to best address it because it is unique.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, most districts in the state have a chronic absenteeism issue. Some are similar to us, and some are not. We there are a lot of factors, and I think one of the action steps we've started to work with the principals on is just knowing, you kind of have to look each student and what that student's profile is, and what the reasons are, because sometimes it is very concerning, seeing our homeless students in that group as an area of need is very, very concerning, right? And we need to be able to take specific action to address that. So, we're working with our principals on what's possible, and also, looking at, would it be possible to bring back the short-term independent study to allow students to recover their attendance when families are taking those trips. I'm not sure we'd be successful in eliminating the trips. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Good ideas showing up on the Jamboard. If there's something that's already happening that you think we should continue, please add that. I see some of those comments already. Great. Fantastic ideas. Does anyone else want to say something or ask a question, make a comment?
I don't see any thing in the chat, but can I ask, if you're signed in with only your first name, could you go ahead and type your last name in the chat too? I need to keep attendance, and it would be very helpful. Or if you can sign in with both names when you come to the meetings, that would be great. Thank you so much.
We really value everybody's contributions. Actually, attendance at these meetings is one of the things that is in our LCAP as a metric for parent engagement. And so we're always trying to get to that 100%. I think we were only at 25% at the midpoint this year. So I'm hoping we can improve that. And we thought maybe the virtual meetings would help based on the feedback, but I'm not too sure. So welcome your feedback on that as well. Something we've been talking about that I really would love your feedback on is parent education. So, we partner with the Parent Venture. We send out all kinds of opportunities, and I think that's been well received. We've been hitting our metrics. Many thousands of participants engage in those over the course of a year. But what else should we be thinking about in terms of parent education? We've been tossing around a few ideas. One of them being, should we consider like a focused series by grade band? So we could do for parents of preschool through second grade parents, and focus in on the development of the kids at that age, and how to best support them. And then 3-5, and then 6-8, that kind of idea. Would there be a benefit in doing something like that? So any thoughts you have on parent education would be great.
I think what you guys have been doing so far are great, and what you just recommended, I think that would be well received too.
Thank you. One thing too, as we're thinking here, I wanted to point out, because I know you can help me spread the word about this. I often hear from PAC and DELAC over the years that parents are a little nervous to indicate that their child's an English learner, when they come into the system, because we do provide the daily English language development support for English learners. But I just want to make sure everybody knows that our English learners, they start out, slow on those metrics because they're just learning, but then it is truly amazing. They are really, probably our highest achieving group when we look at the student groups in the end. When they become reclassified, they meet or often even exceed the achievement of the English only students. So we're getting great support for them at school, and I know at home too. And we know, brain development of English learners is just off the charts. They're just making connections, and it really pays off in the end. They do very, very well after the reclassification happens and they become fluent in English. And so it's just really exciting to see that happen for our kids. Okay, well, let's keep going. I really appreciate this. I see lots of great comments here, and I see the comment about music, and yes, I will share that with our director who oversees music, and that is something we've been talking about with the music teachers is how could we really focus on that sense of belonging and try to have less moving around with the music teachers and let more connection at the school sites. So that's great. More math intervention, mental health and LVN, so important. Make sure, yes, science of reading. I'll just say quickly there, yes, we are very on top of that research, and we are using a structured literacy approach in the primary grades, including TK. So in TK, we have Sunday Let's Play Learn, very structured and systematic, which is Orton Gillingham based, which is exactly what is on this Post-it note, as well as Haggerty Phonemic Awareness and Sunday through second grade. And it's also the material that we use for our intervention classes and in our special education rooms as well, the next tiers of that. So I'm happy to say we're ahead of the curve on that and carefully monitoring our kids' progress in phonics. Yes, a lot of great feedback here. Thank you. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so we always just check in on this each meeting, and we know that we have our DELAC meeting coming up. Everyone's welcome to come, but it's specifically focusing on parents of English learners, and Sarah will be running that meeting coming up in March, and then we'll be getting back together in April and May, still talking about LCAP and anything else that comes up. And we have the next DELAC meeting is virtual, and this next meeting is also virtual. Okay, let's keep going. So in terms of what's coming up next, we're doing, all of our input sessions at this time of year, which will include the next DELAC meeting. And then in April, we'll be sharing what we think we're hearing so far from the themes and kind of reflecting back. These are the key points that we're hearing from all the different groups. And then in May, we're getting that LCAP draft in place. You'll have that opportunity to ask questions of the superintendent. We'll post those responses, and then we'll bring the plan to the board in June. So that'll be our LCAP flow. And, sometimes it's hard to think of things in the meeting. So I just want to encourage you, if you think of additional input, you can go back on that Jamboard anytime, over the next month or so, or you can email me directly if something comes to mind or you have a question. We can just keep adding to all of the information that we're gathering as we're looking for those themes. So really appreciate everybody taking time to add your thoughts today. And we're on track to get our next LCAP in place and listening for all those common themes that we're hearing across the groups. Does anybody want to say anything else before we close the meeting? All comments welcome. Okay, well, we're done early. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time today. See you next time.